Something wicked this way comes. Hey everyone, and welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are not here for a January random movie reaction. What's going on? What is all this? Well, I know I said that all the weekend movies of January would be randomized via the wheel and all of that. But this is going to be an exception. And there's a reason for it. So, my church does this thing every January. It's a movie thing. We go see the movies, and then one of the pastors preaches a message on that movie, talking about the themes and ideas of it. And the movie that they went and saw back on Monday was Wicked. And so I'm thinking, like, okay, this was donated for already by Venom. So what do? I asked Venom. I asked, how much do you really want to see me react to this? And he's like, I really, really want to see you react to this. And so it's like, okay. And that's where I was going to leave it off originally. But then I thought, this coming Sunday at church, they're going to be talking about the movie. And while they probably won't go too deep into spoilers, and I do know quite a bit about Wicked just because, it's been this cultural zeitgeist forever now, since the play first came out on Broadway. I feel like it would just be safer to get to this. But I can't trust that the wheel would get to it, because that's randomized between like 35 different options. But I found the loophole. It's like I was saying that the weekend movies, the Saturday and Sunday movies for January, would be randomized via the wheel. I didn't say anything about movies during the week. So yeah, you're seeing this on Wednesday. I'm recording this on Wednesday. This is a special extra movie reaction for this week. It's not connected to the randomized wheel reactions for the weekends. Those are still continuing to happen. All weekend reactions this month will continue to be randomized via the wheel. This is just an extra thing. Because I don't want to wait. Because I'm thinking, like, I might see this, or I might, need to see this movie before Sunday. And this way, it's like, you get my reaction to it, I get to see it, and I won't be completely out of the loop come Sunday at church. Though again, I feel like there's enough that I know that I'd probably be fine. But, whatever. Now, so let's talk about what I know about this. So obviously this is like a unofficial prequel to The Wizard of Oz. It's an unofficial prequel that basically gives the backstory behind the Wicked Witch, Elphaba, and Glinda the Good Witch. It gives their backstory, explains how everything comes to be, and yada yada yada. Now, there's other things that I know about this that I'm not going to say because they would be definitely considered spoilers. And I don't know, to be fair, how this movie adapts that from the original play, which is also adapted from an original book. So I'm not even 100% sure if what I know is from the play or the book. But I do know certain things, and they would be things that I would be considered spoilers. Now, I know a couple of the songs from this. I've heard Defying Gravity. I've obviously heard Popular, because everyone's heard Popular. It's funny, like, theater nerds will try to tell you that the best song from this is Defying Gravity. But Popular is so far and away more mainstream. Like it's so actively more well known and just has been like out there in the world much more. Because it's like even Mika did a song, a version of that song, basically, with Ariana Grande, funny enough. So kind of coming full circle for her. Um, and let's talk about that for a minute, because some of you might know I don't like Ariana Grande. I don't like her as a person. I don't like her as an actress. And yes, this is not her first acting role, so just putting that out there. I don't like her as a singer. I just don't like her. I don't think she's I don't think she's a good person. I don't think she's a good singer. I don't think she's a good actress. I don't think that she deserves her popularity. I don't. And mind you, it's all subjective. So if you like her, that's fine. But I don't like her. I never have. And there's a lot of other issues I could go into, but I'm not going to waste the time here doing so. So I'm very wary about her role in this. I've heard like a little snippet of her in the popular song, and I did not like it at all. So we'll see how the full version goes within context. But Cynthia Erivo, I don't think I know her from anything else. I've heard that she wants to like play Storm in the MCU. But I don't think I know her from anything else. Of course, I might and just might not know it. But yeah, I can't think of anything offhand. I believe Jeff Goldblum is the wizard in this. Um, and what's her name from Everything Everywhere All at Once? I can't think of her name right now, but she's in this as well. And I think those are the actors that I know that are in this. If there's anyone else in this that I would recognize, I don't know that they're in this. um, I know that this movie is like over 2.5 hours long, which to some people would be an issue. To me, it's not. It's like I don't mind that as long as the movie is good and entertaining. I don't mind it being over 2.5 hours long. I've watched long movies. That's not an issue for me. And if for some reason I did need to cut it cut it at some point and come back to it later, I could. I also know that this is only the first of these movies, that there's going to be a second one, and I think it's called Wicked for Good, and that's supposed to come out, I think next year. I don't think it's coming out in 2025, but I might be wrong. It's possible. But either way, that movie, we're getting two movies because the play, what it's adapting, is longer and it needs, more time to adapt everything properly, which I don't mind. I don't mind that at all. I think that's fine for adaptions to do if necessary. Um, I think it's better than trying to squeeze everything into a single movie, because sometimes you'll have to leave out way too much and end up like compacting certain elements of it. It just doesn't work as well when you try to squeeze everything into a single movie. And so hopefully, it ends up being good in the pacing and everything in that regard. Now, since this is based off of Wizard of Oz, I feel like I do need to say I don't like Wizard of Oz. I know, huge shock, huge like unpopular opinion there, because the Wizard of Oz, super popular movie. I think it's the first movie that was like in color, wasn't it? Um, it was this big deal, still seen as this big deal, seen as one of the best family films. I never liked it. I think it's dumb. I don't like the writing. I don't like the characters. I don't like the music. I don't like it. I could never get into it. I could never buy the drama. I could never like I never really felt any attachment to any of the characters. It's like, even as a kid, it's like, I just, I watched it like maybe once or twice and then moved on to other stuff. It's not like Space Jam, where I watched that like dozens of times as a kid. Or, Remember the Titans, which I've watched dozens upon dozens of times. Those are movies that I really loved. Uh, Emperor's New Groove, Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Those are the kind of things that I was watching all the time, constantly, over and over when I was young. Wizard of Oz, again, watched it once, maybe twice. That's it. Never grew attached, never cared. And then when I got into like older teenager into adulthood, I think I watched it like once or twice more. And it's like, oh yeah, my thoughts on this have not changed. I don't care for this. I don't hate it or anything. I want to make that clear. Like, I don't hate The Wizard of Oz. I just don't care for it. I don't like it. Nothing about it is like contemptible or terrible. I just think it's very blah. It's very mid. Nothing about it hooks me in. And mind you, that could be the mindset of someone who, grew up in the 90s and 2000s and all, and just grew up with a very different kind of media. Like, people who are of older generations and grew up with The Wizard of Oz more probably like it more because of that, because it's like the kind of media they grew up with, that they're more used to. But the stuff I was growing up with was very different. And so some of those older things, like, I didn't like at first. It took me until I was in high school to even like older films at all, really. Outside of like Three Stooges, which I always enjoyed because I just enjoy comedy. um, but like black and white stuff, I would turn up my nose at when I was a kid, because it's like, ooh, it's black and white. I don't want to watch this. This is old people television. This is old people movies. Again, the only exception being being Three Stooges, which was just absolutely an exception for me. I didn't care if it was hypocritical. I love Three Stooges. But when I was in high school and everything, and I saw like 12 Angry Men for the first time, that completely turned me around and made me want to check out more older stuff. And remember, it's like, even like It's a Wonderful Life, I only saw like the other year, like a couple years ago now. I only saw that for the first time as an adult, like 30 years old. So hey, I've gotten more into older stuff, but I still don't like Wizard of Oz. And so with this being a sequel to that, or a prequel rather, I'm not super heavily invested. I was never invested in the play, never invested in checking out the book. I just never cared. So when this was announced and when it was being cast and things were coming out, I just was like, I don't care. I'm not really interested. I mean, I figured I'd watch it at some point anyway, but I wasn't really invested in it. There were other movies that I wanted to put my time into seeing more. Like in terms of 2024 films, The Wild Robot. That was like the instant I saw the trailer the first time, I'm like, this is gonna probably be my movie of the year. This looks fucking amazing. I see the movie. This is fucking amazing. It's my movie of the year. It lived up to the hype. It lived up to every bit of hype that I had for it based off of the first trailer. It's like, damn. Very rarely does that happen where a movie completely lives up to my expectations and hopes for it, and actually surpasses them even. But yeah, I didn't really have any expectations or hopes for this because I just wasn't interested. But like I said, I knew I would probably get to it, and even before Venom you donated for it, I knew it would probably be donated for. With it being as big as it is, it makes sense. So, sorry for these long pre-thoughts, but there's just been a lot to get out to talk about with this, and hey, the movie's going to be much longer, so... Yeah, I'm cautious going into this film. Just coming from someone who doesn't like the source material, I guess, if you want to consider Wizard of Oz the source material. Coming from someone who was just never interested in this in the first place, from someone who doesn't like Ariana Grande, this seems like a movie that I probably wouldn't like. But I'm willing to give it a shot, because I'm willing to give anything a shot. If I don't like it, I don't like it. If I do, cool. But we'll see. Hell, this might just be a movie where it's like, oh, some aspects of it I really like, some aspects I don't. That's pretty reasonable, I feel. And I'm not going to just say that I like it just because it's popular to do so. I'm not going to just follow the trends and everything. I'm going to share my honest opinions on this film. So if there's something I really don't like about this, I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to hold back. If there's something I absolutely hate, I'm going to tell you. So be prepared for that. If you're just here to see someone gas this movie up even further, you're at the wrong place. It might happen, it's possible, but you're not at the right reactor for that kind of thing. I'm not someone who's just going to gas the movie up without acknowledging its possible flaws. Like, even movies I absolutely adore, I'll acknowledge their flaws when they have them. It's like, that's just something you should do. But let's get into this. Let's see what this movie has in store for us, and hope for the best. So, yeah, let's get this going. Hold up just a second there. Before you click that link down in the description below to go to today's reaction, I just wanted to take this moment real quick to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions, with 2 on Wednesday. We also have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but upload them on the weekend. And don't forget about all the awesome gaming content over on the Princess of Gaming channel. Every single day of the week, we have some awesome Let's Plays for you. A bunch of different things to check out, and more coming in the future. And don't forget to click that subscribe button or like the video if you really enjoy the content I'm putting out. There will be more to come in the future. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in, and let's get this going. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So going into this as someone who doesn't like The Wizard of Oz, and someone who doesn't like Ariana Grande, as someone who wasn't really interested in this at all, because it's not really like something that would appeal to me. Because, like, for a lot of people, this was kind of, there's a hair in my mouth. This is kind of the movie event of 2024, the big one that everybody had been talking about. And ironically enough, this movie came out onto digital like only a month after it debuted in theaters, which is wild. And I'm wondering if they did that to get it more out there, because I think it's still in theaters. Well, actually, I know it's still in theaters because my church group, like I mentioned, was going to see it back on Monday. But it's already on demand, and I'm like, I know it did well, so it's like, it's just weird that they would do that. That being said, like, yeah, I went into this not really expecting much. Like, it's going to, be one of those stories that gives an evil character a tragic backstory and makes them, or tries to make them sympathetic in order to, try to add nuance to something that didn't have nuance. And there's definitely that aspect of things. I mean, the wizard was always kind of a charlatan. That was always a thing. But he was more or less good-natured in The Wizard of Oz. Here, he's just kind of a self-absorbed dick. And the Wicked Witch was always just, evil. But this, you know, flips that around and makes it more like, oh, she's proclaimed to be evil as a political statement. Because, as the wizard had said, like, where he comes from, they pin the blame basically on someone or something in order to bring people together. I don't remember the exact wording of it, so yeah. That's pretty much what he said. And it's like, okay, so that's clearly what they did here. After she rejected their way of doing things and the horrors of everything that she found out, they pinned everything on her. They chose to villainize her, to turn her into the Wicked Witch in order to save face and unite people against her. There's a lot of themes and messages that can be said about this movie. One of the themes I would definitely say I saw in this is the idea of a woman's life being controlled and manipulated and, you know, just mistreated by others around her, others in power especially, and being treated as lesser because of that. There's also themes of obviously racism, animals, animal-based themes are in this, of course. Just a lot of things, really. It really touches on a lot of notable topics that a lot of people can connect to based on things happening in the real world. Both back when this originally came out and even, unfortunately, today. You also have like just the general theme of prejudice that seems to like be the biggest focus of this. Just as a base, obviously the prejudice against the animals, the prejudice against her for having green skin. There's a lot you could say about a lot of that you narrow it down into specific parts, but just the general idea of prejudice is kind of the main theme of this. And how people treat others based on narrow-minded assumptions based on things like skin color and race and stuff like that. This obviously expressed all of this by utilizing, of course, Elphaba being born with the green skin and all, and just the various other kinds of connections with the animals, the professor specifically, and just, you know, things like that. It uses these metaphors to get the point across without necessarily seeming too preachy, which a lot of people are stupidly concerned about. So it allows people to be able to understand these themes and messages without bitching about it at all times. And some people, unfortunately, don't want to acknowledge that. I bet you anything. I haven't looked into this at all, of course, but I bet you anything that there are right-wing people who are complaining about this movie being woke. I bet you anything. Because of the messages, the themes of racism and stuff, you know, a woman taking charge of her life and stuff. It's like this is the stuff that the right complains about constantly. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were people bitching about that. Visually, most of it was good. There were certain aspects that looked very CG. Let's put it that way. And usually that's not a big problem for me. I'm not one of those people who complains and bitches over CG in movies, because I understand that a lot of times it's necessary to get things to look a certain way, especially in like a movie or a world that's whimsical like this, that has a lot of um, uniqueness, for lack of a better way to put it. And so we we focus on a world that's very fantastical, very like whimsical, very silly in some ways. And I can dig like certain outfits being a little weird or whatnot, but some of uh, the building designs were a little weird, but I'm fine with that. It's the animals I think that I had a lot of problem with. Like specifically, like as an example, those frogs. I'm not talking about like necessarily the talking animals, the ones that we focused on as part of again the core theme of that. I'm talking about like the little frogs and stuff like that, birds or whatever, that just looked really fake. Like they looked like they were like almost pasted onto the screen rather than actually belonging in the shots. It's like that's like again, I don't usually complain about it, but that's pretty bad. But again, that was very minor. Most everything else looked fine. Like the train, as wacky and ridiculous as it was in terms of its design, looked fine. The Emerald City, for the most part, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. You get the gist. So yeah, the acting for the most part was really good. Um, Literally the only complaint I would have towards that is Ariana Grande. She can't act. She can't. She's better than she used to be. She's better than she was when she was like a kid and teenager and everything on like Disney Channel or whatnot. She's better than back then. Like she was really bad back then. Like even compared to other like Disney Channel kids who, weren't always the best actors. And it's nothing against them and all, it's just they weren't. A lot of child actors aren't that great because they haven't had the time to put in all of that practice and learn how to like say dialogue and ways to move or even express themselves. There's exceptions, of course, but a lot of them have always been very mixed, with some of them just not being that great. And some of them have gotten better with age in that way. Some of them have actually improved a lot. Ariana Grande has improved a little. Like if I were to grade her acting as a kid, teen, as being like an F, I'd say she's like a high D, low C now. It's a notable improvement, but I still would not call her good. The problem is she tries to oversell every scene, every expression, everything she says or does. She tries to oversell, and it just comes across as like really unnatural, especially when she's side by side with Cynthia Erivo, who does a phenomenal job, one of the best performances in this. Like Cynthia Erivo is so believable, so like raw in her emotion, that it's like for a lot of the film I was just like almost forgetting that this was an actress and not just the character. But with Ariana Grande, I'm just like reminded every time she's on screen, it's like, oh god, that's just Ariana Grande. And like I said, with the singing, in terms of like the popular song, she's too like sanitized. She doesn't insert any emotion or character or depth or intrigue or any of those little imperfections that make a vocal performance so good. Cynthia Erivo had those, but the only single one that Ariana Grande did was that right. That was slapping the book down and yelling right. That was the only moment where she really stood out. And she wasn't just like generic pop voice number 25. Like I said in the reaction, it's like when I say she can't sing, it's not that she doesn't have talent. It's that she's too technical to a detrimental degree. She has the technical know-how of like how to sing, but she's so like precise and perfect and sanitized that she has no personality in her performance. She has no character, no anything. It's soulless. It's emotionless. And it's just, I don't buy it. Cynthia Erivo's completely the opposite. And even like the background singers and side voices and everything in this did honestly just, in my opinion, a better job. It's like maybe the only person that was a little weaker was Jeff Goldblum, and that's because he didn't really sing much. He just kind of did his Goldblumisms, just kind of like dee 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 dee. You know how he is. He's a goofball, but he kind of started to really sing at a point, but never really like went far enough with it to get a good feel for like his actual performance. So it's like maybe in the next part we'll see more of that, but yeah, it's just, as for Ariana, it's, I couldn't buy into her character at all. And I mean, it doesn't really help that I also just didn't like her character for the most part. I didn't like her self-absorbed, prissy attitude. I don't like characters like that for the most part. I like it when characters who are like that change and grow. And she started to do that, but she never went far enough with it. She never lost that prissy, self-absorbed attitude, and just never really like developed as much as she needed to, in my opinion. While comparatively, like you have like someone like I was making comparisons to Ruby, so let's talk Weiss Schnee from Ruby. Weiss is a character who absolutely starts off that way. And at the beginning of the series, when I first watched it, I didn't like her because of that. But she soon starts getting developed, especially in volumes 4 and onward, and you really start to like her because she grows out of that. She becomes less prissy, less self-absorbed, and becomes a genuinely good person who fights against the injustices that she once like pushed. And that's the kind of thing I would love to see, but we kind of know that Glinda's story doesn't go there, unless this, again, changes things drastically. Because we know how Glinda is, and we know in the end, she and the Wicked Witch were kind of against each other. They didn't like each other. They were not friends. So again, unless this completely changes, like, all of that as well, the event, basically all of that involving how they were towards each other in the events of the timeline of The Wizard of Oz, then it's like, we know this doesn't end well, and we know which side she ends up picking. And obviously, I want to make it clear right off the bat, do not spoil anything about where this goes. Do not spoil anything. I don't like spoilers on this channel for myself or for anyone else. I do not want you to post any spoilers on whether I'm right or wrong about any theories, on whether any observations I make are right or wrong, etc., etc. I know this is a very popular, again, book to play to now movie, and I know people are very opinionated about it. Keep in mind, this is a first-time viewing for me, as someone who has not seen the play, not read the book, and heard 2 songs prior to this film. Keep in mind that I have not seen the rest of this yet in any way, shape, or form. And that could change my perspective on things. So please do not spoil me. Just no spoilers whatsoever. I want to hammer that in. But I I mentioned that there were certain things that I knew about this, certain themes and whatnot that I had heard people talk about. I didn't go into details, and I feel like I don't want to go into one specific thing because there's something that I've heard talk about. I don't know like how true it is or to what degree it is, but it wasn't addressed in this. So I don't want to talk about it because it's probably going to be addressed in the next one. I'm not going to say what it is. I'm not going to say like any details, but there is something that was not answered yet or not talked about or addressed or anything. So I'm just letting you know that. Um, like I said, I had heard like Defying Gravity once or twice. Um, I will say, I think Cynthia Erivo's performance was better than the original. Like I don't know if that's going to be an unpopular opinion or not. I don't know. Like there's some theater nerds who will probably like say that's heresy. Um, but just personally, as someone who likes Idina Menzel and likes her singing voice and everything, um, I think Cynthia Erivo's power and depth of tone and whatnot in this performance sold the lyrics better. I truly believe that different songs require different levels of performances. And when you have a song like that with those lyrics, with the context behind what was happening at the time and what had just happened, you need someone to be able to powerfully belt that out, to really hammer that in, to really just get those vocals out in the best possible way. For the lyrics, for again, the context and everything, and I think that she just smashed that. She did so fucking well. And again, I'm not saying Idina Menzel did bad, not by any means. But she just never, from the version I heard, I guess, which I heard, I saw a live performance thing. I don't know if it was actually from a Broadway thing or if it was like from a TV performance or something. I don't remember. But I saw like something like that, a live performance. And then I like heard the song, like just the song, so it was probably from a soundtrack or something. Um, but she never really went as powerful as I felt she needed to with that song. And so Cynthia Erivo's performance was definitely much better in that regard. It's the same thing as like in terms of this movie. I don't think Ariana Grande gave the right performance for Popular compared to how not just Kristen Chenoweth originally sang it, but how the way Kristen Chenoweth sang it fits with the context of what was happening at that point, and the story and the character and the lyrics. So it's like it depends on context. Context should note how a song is sung, especially in something like this, especially in a musical. And so while I think Kristen Chenoweth's version of Popular was better, I do think Cynthia Erivo's version of Defying Gravity was better. So it's kind of like a little mixed in that way. And the other songs I can't say on because I've only heard these versions. um, yeah, I guess overall, I would say the best way to put this, I think, is I went into this movie not really expecting much of it because, again, not a fan of The Wizard of Oz, the entire story behind that and everything. Also, the way Judy Garland was, treated when making that movie. It was Judy Garland, right? I got the right name, right? I always question that. If I got the wrong name, I apologize. I'm sometimes bad at that. But you know who I mean. Dorothy. She was treated terribly, not just in that movie, but in others. But like, I'm not a fan of the movie in general in terms of the writing or characters or anything like that. And coming into this as someone who wasn't really interested in this and who doesn't like Ariana Grande and everything, I came into this not going in with any necessary expectations, but not like expecting to hate it either. I went in like with a clean mind. I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to see how it goes. And I'll judge it based on the merits of the film. What I truly believe the film gave to me in terms of its quality of storytelling, character work, theming, music, etc., etc. And so coming out of this 2.5 hours, or just over again, for this film, um, with with those like not really expectations set, and going into it not being a fan of the material it's based on and everything, going into it and coming out after those 2.5 hours, it's like my overall thoughts are that yeah, it's fucking great. Outside of those little things that I just didn't really get a handle on, certain bits of the CG just not really feeling great to me. Um, Ariana Grande just in general, and then certain other aspects of it, um, nitpicks and whatnot here and there. This movie, I can't even I can't be like the grumpy uh, person who's against this. It's like it's fucking great. Like the theming especially is fantastic. Cynthia Erivo's performance, like she deserves all the awards for that. It's like I can't hate on this. Like there's I would have to be soulless to hate on this. I can't do that. It's not like my favorite movie ever or anything, but it's really damn good. It's not something that I would like watch again and again and again, but I'm actively glad to have watched it now. I really enjoyed it. And the reason I haven't talked about like Fiero, I think was his name, the prince, or certain other characters, such as Elphaba's sister, is because I don't think they had enough of an impact in this film specifically, but I do think that they're going to become bigger in the second one. Because it definitely seemed like it was setting up things for them at the end, to be a bigger role in the sequel. I think they're going to have a lot more to do and to say, and a lot more with the theming of things. So that's why I haven't really said much of anything about them. Because I just feel like in this movie they didn't do much. And then there's like Glinda's friends, Bo and Yang, and the other girl. It's like I think they're just super minor characters. I don't think they're gonna have a big role in the next one. They'll probably have the same level of role as in this one. I don't think they're like gonna be bigger. But if they do end up getting bigger roles, then I'm all for that. But that's just how they came across as like super minor, like almost sidekick like characters. Um, Michelle Yeoh was definitely a standout of this, as she pretty much always is. She's so phenomenal. Like, I just love Michelle Yeoh. Jeff Goldblum, eh. And it's weird to say that because I love Jeff Goldblum. He's a great actor. He's really funny. His Goldblumisms are just legendary. I feel like he was holding back in this. And I know it might be for the character, but it just didn't feel very Goldbloomy. And I just feel like he could have been better, or maybe just get a different actor. I feel like like maybe he wasn't right for the role. Um, he still did good for what he had, but I don't know. Either he was holding himself back from really being Goldbloomy, or he just wasn't right for the role. It's one of the two, I think. And I'm hoping it's the former. Maybe we'll see more of his Goldblumness in the second one. We'll see. Obviously, again, don't spoil things for me. Um, with any theories I might have, like especially regarding my theory about him possibly being Elphaba's father, the one who her mother was cheating on, or cheating with, because that was not confirmed in this. That is just a theory I had based on the wording that he was saying. It just seemed very suspicious to me, especially knowing he's like the wizard is a charlatan. Do not tell me if I'm right or wrong on that. Like that's almost like I, I'm pretty much saying that I might ban you if you spoil me on that. Like I do not want to know if I'm right or wrong about that ahead of time, because I will definitely be seeing the second movie, and I'll um, more than likely be reacting to it. Um, but yeah, I think everyone did a good job. I love the scene, the song and scene where we actually got to see Kristen Chenoweth and Adina Menzel. Like, I kind of started tearing up at that because I love that. I love that whenever it's done in like a big like adaptation or whatnot, where you see like the original actors, or let's say it's like a remake of a film, but one or two of the original actors appear as like a cameo. I love that shit because it pays homage to the original and gives credit to the actors who made these characters so popular, pun intended, made them so famous, made them so beloved. And in this case, especially with something that is as big as Wicked is, that's a big deal. And seeing them especially interacting with the new actresses playing their same characters is just like chef's kiss. Mwah. Perfection. It's so good. It's like that's the kind of shit I really love and I want to see more of in just adaptions and remakes, etc., etc., etc. And I know this is a completely different type of film, very different, exceptionally different, but I want to give you an example of something that's coming out this year. Um, there's a movie coming out this year, a horror film called Until Dawn, that is a an adaptation, sort of the video game. I thought it was originally going to be just a full adaptation, but apparently they're like it's like in the same kind of universe, the same kind of style, but its own story. But you have one of the original actors from the game, Peter Stormare, who you might know from things like Netflix's Castlevania, where he was Godbrand. He was one of the German guys in The Big Lebowski. He was Satan in Constantine. He's done so many great roles. But he's returning to Until Dawn for this movie. Apparently a different character, but that's still great to see. That they're still honoring the original game by bringing in one of the actors from it. And if like we were surprised, if we end up getting surprised by like a Rami Malek cameo because he was in the game, or Brett Dalton, or Hayden Panettiere because they were all in the game as well, that would be amazing. That would just absolutely make my day when I eventually see that film. Because I'm very excited to see that film because I love Until Dawn, one of my favorite horror games easily. But that's what I'm talking about. Like they're honoring the original material by including an actor from that, just like here, like they did with Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel. And it's just like that I just love that. I can't speak well enough about that. It's so good. The choreography and everything, I haven't really touched on that yet. Was just very musical. And there were a couple points where I felt like, why are you doing this choreographed musical dancing here? Specifically, like during the dance, where they should just be, you know, dancing normally. It felt very off. It's like that's the one part you shouldn't have this or over choreographed musical dancing going on. That's the one part where everybody should be dancing kind of awkwardly, um, maybe out of rhythm with each other and all that. That's more of what I would want during that scene specifically. And they kind of went into that. They bridged into that a little, but they started off with the over choreographed flash mob style dancing, and it's just like that just feels off to me. But otherwise, the choreography was great. I have no other issue with that. Um, again, I really like the themes. I like the pacing of this. For being a movie that's like 2 hours 45 minutes or so long, it did not feel like it. It felt actually very well paced. Um, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, but here we are. I really enjoyed it. And Venom, I know you're thinking right now that you're glad that I did react to this instead of like going to the movie with my church. You're probably really happy that I reacted to this because you really, really, really wanted me to do so. So there you go. There you go. Um, but yeah, I definitely want to check out the next one. Like I said, I don't know if it's coming out this year or like maybe early in 2026. I don't know, but I would. I don't know. But I'm definitely interested in seeing that now. I'm definitely actually excited to see that now. And I do hope that it expands on certain things from this first film a little bit more. Like I said, I don't know how long it's supposed to be. I know there's been like photos or stuff already being shown for it. I'm gonna try to keep away from any future trailers or spoilers because I don't want to be spoiled on anything. Um, and maybe, yeah, maybe we'll react to that one too when that comes out. It depends pretty much on if it's requested. But like I said, this was kind of an out there pick because this month has been the randomized wheel movies for the weekends. But this isn't the weekend, it's a Wednesday. So you get to see this movie as an extra, as a bonus. Like I said, though, it's basically just because it makes it easier on me for when I go to church this weekend and my pastor's like talking about the movie. That way I don't get spoiled on any little thing because it's possible that something could slip through. But that being said, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of Wicked? No spoilers. I'm going to hammer that in. What did you think of this first movie? No spoilers to the second movie and the events that are going to happen within. No spoilers for anything that I have not seen. Um, I don't want to know anything that I have not seen from this. And in terms of like how things were adapted compared to how they are in the book or the play, be careful if if you're saying anything about that because again, I don't want any spoilers for anything that might come in the second movie or might be talked about. So just be cautious. That's all I ask. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this film, how it was adapted, how you think the music was compared to the soundtrack of the original stage play, etc., etc. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you thought of the reaction. And thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.